Today's lesson for Math 8 is going to deal with decimal numbers. Let's get right into it. Let's use words to write these decimal numbers. Okay, the first thing you want to do when you're writing a decimal number verbally or with words is to state the whole number. So in this case, the whole number is 11. Anytime you see a decimal point, you're going to write the word and. Okay, that is the only time you're ever going to use the word and. You don't use the word and when you're writing the whole number. You don't use the word and when you're writing the decimal part. Only when you're writing the actual decimal point. So 11 and what? Well, now we just write the decimal part as if it were a whole number. So we'll just write 12. And lastly, you determine what decimal place the decimal part goes out to. The 1 is in the tenths place, the 2 is in the hundredths place, so we'll just write hundredths. That's 100 with a TH on the end of it. Okay, on B, we don't have a whole number, so we don't need to write 0 and. We'll just write the decimal part, 375. 75 is hyphenated. Not a big deal if you mess that up. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So just write the decimal part as if it were a whole number, 375, then determine what decimal place you're going out to. Is it tenths, hundredths, thousandths? Is it 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths? Is it millionths, 10 millionths, 100 millionths, billionths, 10 billionths, 100 billionths? The pattern continues. Now we're being asked to write each fraction as a decimal number. Well, a fraction is just a division problem. So 3/5 is the same as 3 divided by 5. We can do this without a calculator, even though most of the time you will have a calculator. If you can do it without, then you can definitely do it with. So 3/5 is 0.6 because 3 divided by 5 is 0.6. Now with this one, let's just ignore the whole number for now. Let's find out what 1 divided by 4 is. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. So 2 1/4 is 2.25. And then the last one is just 1 divided by 200. 200 goes into 1, 0.005 times 0.005. So 1/200th is 0.005. Okay, obviously this would be easier with a calculator. I'm showing you right now that it can be done without. All right, let's write each of these decimals as fractions. Okay, we'll go back to the very first set of examples where we were writing numbers verbally or with words. We have to be able to determine the decimal place. So 5 is our numerator. Our decimal place is the hundredths place. So our fraction is going to be, our denominator is going to be 100 because 5 is in the hundredths place. And then we'll just simplify 5 100ths by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 5. We get 1/20th. Over here, 25 is going to be our numerator. And our denominator is going to be 1,000 because the 5 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. Divide both the numerator and the denominator by 25 and you get 1/40th. On H, 1 is our whole number, 2 is our numerator, 10 is our denominator because it's in the tenths place, and we'll just simplify 2/10 to 1/5. Lastly, 0.001, 1 is our numerator. Our denominator is going to be 1,000 because 1 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. That can't be simplified, so we're done. So the key thing here is determine what place the decimal part goes out to. That'll be your denominator. Simplify if possible. Don't forget whole numbers. Okay, let's take these decimal numbers and we're going to write them as percents. You're probably not going to find this too difficult, and that's good. We got enough difficult stuff to concentrate on. When you have decimals and you want to write them as percents, you just multiply them by 100%. And when you multiply something by a percent, it becomes a percent. When you multiply something by 100, you move the decimal place 2 spots to the right. So 0.8 out of 1 is the same as 80 out of 100, and that's what percent means, is per 100. So 80 per 100. That's what 0.8 is. Okay, with the 1.3, multiply that by 100%, we'll get 130%. Okay, now 1.3 is greater than 1, so it written as a percent, it should be greater than 100%. 0.875 times 100%. Move that decimal place 2 spots to the right, because that's what you do when you multiply by 100. We got 87.5%. And 0.002 times 100%. Don't move that decimal too far to the right. Only move it 2 spots. It's 0.2%. Let's do this backwards now. Let's take these percents and we'll write them as decimals. Okay, we know that division and multiplication are opposites of one another. So to get rid of this percent and write this as a decimal, instead of multiplying it by 100%, we'll divide it by 100%. Percent divided by a percent means the percent signs are going to cancel out. 2 divided by 100, you just move the decimal place 2 spots to the left. 1, 2, you got to add a 0 in there as a placeholder. You get 0.02. All right, 20% divided by 100%. Percent signs are gone. Move the decimal place 2 spots, you're at 0.2 or 0.2. Doesn't matter to me. 24% is just a little bit more than 20%. So the decimal should be just a little bit more than 0.2. It's 0.24. And 0.3% divided by 100%. So we can write this as a decimal. Decimal place 2 spots to the left. You got to add 2 zeros in there. It's 0.003. What about ordering these numbers from least to greatest? So we have decimals in here, we have a fraction in here, we have a negative number in here. Well, obviously the negative number is our smallest number. That's for this left on the number line. We have 2 numbers in here that are less than 1 but greater than 0, 0.6 and 1/2. All right, so which one's smaller? That's the one we want to list first. Well, 0.6 is more than a half because 0.5 would be a half. So 1/2 is our smaller of those 2 numbers. 1.6 is just a little bit bigger than a half. And then 2.3 is our biggest number because it's the only number we have that's greater than 1. Okay, so we've talked about several strategies now for ordering numbers from least to greatest, and we'll continue to practice with that. All right, what length is 75% of 12 inches? Well, they're asking us what's 75% of 12. Well, we have the fraction equation where we take the fraction and we multiply it by the whole thing, and that'll give us the part. Percents are the same thing, except for we need to change percents to a fraction. So I'm going to change 75% to 3/4. 75% is 75 over 100, which is 3/4. Okay, then I'll multiply that by the whole thing, 12 inches. 4 goes into 12 3 times, and 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/4 of 12 inches is 9 inches. So you got to change percents into fractions, or you can change percents into decimals before you do the fraction equation. If the sales tax rate is 7.5%, what is the sales tax on a $48 purchase? All right. Instead of changing 7.5% to a fraction, I'm going to change this to a decimal. It's probably a little bit easier this time. So I'm going to do 0.075 of 48. Okay. You know, I knew what 75% was as a fraction pretty quickly. I knew it was 3/4. 7.5%, that's a little tougher. Okay, I'll grab my calculator. I'll type 0.075 times 48. I'll get $3.60. So the sales tax on this $48 purchase is $3.60 if the sales tax is 7.5%. In Michigan, it's only 6%, so it's going to be less than that. All right, last problem today says estimate 8.25% sales tax on a $39.79 purchase. Well, they say estimate, so let's just find 8% of $40 instead of $39.79. So 0.08 times 40, or if you wanted to do 8/100ths times 40, that would work also. You get $3.20. But remember, that is an estimate, okay? It's actually a little bit more than that. No, it's actually $3.28 if you do 0.0825 times 39.79. So we're only 8 cents off, close enough, and good enough for an estimate. All right, so we did some work with decimals today. We wrote decimal numbers with words. We converted them into percentages. We converted them into fractions. We did those operations in reverse. We used percentages to find sales tax. And we'll practice this all in the upcoming problem sets. All right, see you tomorrow.